Welcome to the Fatal Facts of Fentanyl. This is dedicated to raising awareness of the illicit fentanyl crisis hitting the USA. It is killing tens of thousands of people who suffer from substance abuse, disorders, and first-time users. There are no boundaries. It is straight across the board with a number of deaths without any regard to race, sex, socioeconomics, age, education, religious background, or location. It is in every community within our country. The fentanyl crisis is deadlier than ever before for various reasons. It is time to address the many issues surrounding this crisis. It is time to listen and learn from experts. It is time to hear the many stories from people who have lost their loved ones due to death by deception. Change begins with each of us as individuals and collaboration with others towards this positive transformation. The goal is to save lives and families from this travesty. Awareness and education are the key. Knowledge is power. I am your host, Lisa Carol Cood, an educator and advocate to help bring awareness to the fentanyl crisis touching every facet of our society. I am a mother who recently lost her son to fentanyl poisoning. I know firsthand the pain of grief surrounding the loss of my firstborn son. I created this podcast in hopes of channeling my heartbreak and put my energy into trying to prevent similar tragedies. I find solace and strength in working to spare other families a similar grief and any person battling this addiction. Tragedy has a way of being something powerful. This is in honor of my beautiful son's life, forever 32. Right here on Fatal Facts of Fentanyl, you will learn from experts on the front line combating the many issues surrounding fentanyl. You will hear personal stories from families and friends who have lost their loved ones and have taken their grief and pain to turn it around to make positive changes and bring awareness and education. You will also listen to people who have struggled with an opioid addiction and are still struggling and are now in active recovery. All of us share a common bond. We are all here to make a difference. We are all here to bring you the fatal facts of fentanyl. The shock of getting a phone call stating that your son is unresponsive and has passed away is an excruciating pain like no other ever imagined. Matthew was out of town visiting his friends and girlfriend. He was given a Percocet at a party. Wendy, his mother, later discovered, after receiving the toxicology report, that he had died of straight fentanyl poisoning. My mind knew Matthew was gone, but my heart didn't want to believe it. Welcome, Wendy.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm so sorry it's under these circumstances. But it has been a year since your sweet brown-eyed boy passed away from a counterfeit pill full of illicit fentanyl. My deepest heartfelt empathy for you. If you will, what memories would you like to share with our audience about Matthew? We would love to hear everything about him.
Honestly, there's probably not enough time to share all the great memories we have of Matthew. He has been a big part of our family, and he still is a big part. We talk about him often, but our family is very close with him growing up. He has 2 sisters and a brother, and we went to the beach a lot. We went to family gatherings. My in-laws lived across the street from us growing up, and my parents lived 2 doors down. And my sister-in-law lived next to my parents. her parents, I'm sorry. So we had all family get-togethers. So there are so many memories, and Matthew is always there. He's in them. And that's probably been the hardest part for us, is he's not there physically anymore. He was the kid who would make people laugh, make people smile. If he saw someone who seemed to not be having a good time or having a bad day, he made it his mission to try and get them to smile and laugh. That was very important to him.
I have seen pictures of him, and he's, like you said, he's a beautiful, beautiful boy. And you could tell he was just so full of life and such a part of your family. And you do have a wonderful family. Wendy, prior to Matthew's death, were you aware of illicit fentanyl and these counterfeit pills? On this painful journey, how and what have you learned about this most potent, deadly drug?
I had not heard of illicit fentanyl at all. I had had surgery and had fentanyl from the doctor in the hospital, but that's all I had ever heard of it. And I was shocked when I saw on his toxicology report that there was fentanyl poisoning. I did everything I could to learn about it. I read everything I could. I joined the Lost Voices of Fentanyl on Facebook. And I just really educated myself as much as I could. And I could not believe just the small amount that it takes to kill somebody, and the prevalence of it, and the fact that nobody seems to be talking about it. I asked myself, why have I not heard about this before? If this is so deadly and it took my child, why have I not heard about it?
Yes, Wendy, you're exactly right. I feel like all of us parents and people that have lost our sons and daughters are in the same boat, so to speak. We were all blindsided. And this stems from parents who had their children suffer with an addiction over the several years. We were blindsided. It also stems to parents who they knew their children were dabbling in recreational drugs. They were blindsided. And also it is down to our middle school children, possibly elementary for all we know, and high schoolers, and on every college campus across this nation, with the illicit fentanyl now being pressed into counterfeit pills. I mean, it is astounding. None of us knew as parents until we got that painful toxicology report. You're exactly right. What do you think needs to be done in our country to bring awareness, education, and combat the major death by deception, that's what I call it, due to fentanyl poisoning? You're an educator. You're a teacher. Tell us what you feel and think needs to be done.
Well, I think right now with the current environment and so many people unaware, that we really need to get out the public awareness and education part. But I kind of look at the whole fentanyl crisis, the solution, or getting to the solution, as a pie. And the first part of the pie would be treatment and recovery. And I think the government, any money that it does invest in this crisis, that's where it goes. But that's not the whole issue. The second piece would be to have publication awareness and education. And I was making a banner for the rally in Washington. And what I noticed, and I have over 800 names of loved ones who've been poisoned by fentanyl. The biggest groups were the 20-somethings and the 30-somethings. Now, Matthew's Voice, which is my nonprofit organization, is really focusing on teenagers and young adults. We plan on going into high schools, possibly middle schools. So I really got to thinking, what about the 20-somethings and the 30-somethings? How could we get to them? And I really think there needs to be a PSA that's put out on social media, that's put out maybe television commercials for the shows that have the demographics that they're in. And maybe we can reach them that way, because they're a big part of the victimhood and they are not being reached. So next, I think probably the high schoolers, they need to be aware, because you have kids who are thinking about experimenting, you have kids who are maybe weekend partiers, and you have kids who have a substance misuse problem. All of them need to be aware. And like you kind of pointed to earlier, I really think that we need to connect with the possible future users in middle school. Most of them have not been exposed to it, some have, but we need to get them the education before they have that opportunity. So they are armed with what they need to be to make a good decision. And then lastly is cut off the supply chain. That's the last piece of the pie. The government needs to be involved. I think that the Chinese criminal organizations, which create the precursor chemicals for fentanyl, and the Mexican cartel, which create the fentanyl, they need to be labeled as terrorist organizations. And I think that fentanyl needs to be labeled as a weapon of mass destruction. And the government needs to truly be involved for that to happen, and they're not. So if we support treatment and recovery, we have education and public awareness, and then we cut off the source, I think that that's going to go a long way in helping resolve the fentanyl crisis.
Yes, Wendy, you touched upon a lot of components that need to be addressed in our country. Let's go back to the rally that you spoke of. You said that you are creating banners and I believe hearts with every victim that you know of this crisis, the fentanyl poisoning. Can you elaborate on the rally for us so our audience will know about that?
Sure. It's on October. It's in August 27th in Washington, D.C. in front of the Chinese embassy. And we're going to have guest speakers that are talking about the different components of the fentanyl crisis and how we can try and combat it and get rid of it, if you will. And I think that it's just really to bring awareness, to let the government know we're tired of our kids dying and nothing being done about it. It really is a call for help. It is a cry for help from the government.
Yes, we are trying to definitely cry out for help. I totally understand that. And we do need help. It's a shame in this country that grieving parents have to be the ones to try to bring awareness and education and try to do everything in our power to get the message out, all for the sake of trying to save others' lives and spare other families from this grief. That's what motivates all of us, everyone that I have spoken to, and all the groups that you and I are involved in on social media. But you know what? I think it's our cause and purpose. Let's just take this a step higher, if you will. Can you talk to me, Wendy? I know that the love, all the love that you have for Matthew has led you to do some things that will make a difference and save lives. I know that this is your calling and is your purpose for your life. Please share with our audience how you are taking your grief and turning it around to help others.
Sure. The thing that I guess really motivated me is in the beginning, I think like almost with all parents, you didn't want people to think poorly of your child. So you didn't really want to share how they died. You didn't want them to say something bad about them. So at first we weren't really sharing with what happened with Matthew. And then I just had this feeling in my heart and my gut that I needed to share it. So I shared with my friends and family on Facebook what happened with Matthew, that I learned a little bit about fentanyl poisoning, so I was able to really give a little bit of information in that post, and I got a tremendous positive response. And I felt surely I touched on someone who talked to their kid that maybe it can make a difference and save their lives. Matthew was not saved, but maybe it could save somebody else. And then I really got to thinking about it, and it just kept coming back to me. And I decided, well, if I could do the small part, why can't I help people, warn them, why can't I do it on a bigger scale? And that's where I created the nonprofit Matthew's Voice. And I named it Matthew's Voice because Matthew had actually talked about wanting to talk to teenagers and different people about the problems with just drugs in general and how they can ruin your life. And he wanted to help them not make the mistakes that he did. So this is giving Matthew a voice and making a difference with other kids. And my biggest goal is to just save kids' lives and stop families from having to go through what we have, because it's heartbreaking. And so really my goal right now is kind of teenagers and young adults. I want to go around. I have a PowerPoint presentation and that kind of introduce them to Matthew. And then I go through a lot of the educational pieces of fentanyl and what they need to know. And I had presented to a Boy Scout troop, and I presented to the troop, also to the parents. I think it's key, especially with those teenagers, that the parents are involved and they know as well, because they have that constant relationship with their child. And I just kind of had mouths falling open at how little it took a fentanyl to kill, how prevalent it was, how many people have died from it, how easy it was to come by. And that really motivated me to keep going. And so I'm going to try and get into schools. I've contacted the Boys and Girls Club of North Carolina, hoping to get in front of their children and their parents. And as I talked about earlier, the 20-somethings and the 30-somethings, Matthew was 20. So that kind of, is on my heart because my child was that age. And I thought about it, and I'm like, if we could get a PSA out to them, it has to start somewhere. And I decided to go ahead and do a PSA, and I'm working on that right now. I've emailed and messaged several celebrities. I don't know if I got to them or not, but I have not heard back. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing to get to them, is to get somebody who's in the spotlight, in the public eye, that they look up to or they like to follow, and get them to help with the PSA, and you'll get those kids to listen. I mean, they're adults, really. They're 20-something and 30-something, but we have to reach them because they're not getting any education at all. So they're unaware.
They are definitely unaware. And I think that's wonderful that you started, because I look at it as a beginning. You started in your community with the Boys and Girls Club, with the Scout group, with the schools. And you're starting in your community, but then I believe you're having a higher calling, Wendy. You want to bring the celebrities in, bring the people that kids especially can relate to and hear the true stories. A lot of these celebrities have suffered too. And their voice needs to be heard, the truth about this. That's why it's the facts of fentanyl. So you're exactly right. So I really hope and pray for the best for you on that endeavor, because I know that you're going to do it. I know that you're going to do it. Can you elaborate on any other components that you are working on for Matthew's voice in your community and elsewhere? And what are your hopes and dreams for this? I think you touched upon a little bit, but I want you to shine with this because you are a doer, and I want people to realize what motivates you in this.
What my goal for Matthew's Voice really is to start out where I am here in Sanford and reach out to the school district and possibly do presentations. It's a small community. There are 2 high schools. There are, I think, 2 or 3 middle schools, and really start with that, and then move to a bigger school district in North Carolina and reach them, and then move to somewhere else. So eventually I would like to go to the whole state of North Carolina and educate the teenagers about fentanyl and how deadly it is. And the sooner the better. And I'm kind of curious where this whole PSA thing's going to go. I just started it about a week ago, and it's something that's definitely on my heart, and I'm determined to get at least one celebrity to be a spokesperson for it. So I'm kind of curious where it'll go. And like you said, maybe it will lead to something even more, something more national. We'll see. But for now, definitely working on my community and getting those kids educated and being aware of fentanyl is there. And they may think they're taking a Percocet like their mama has in her cabinet or their dad, but it's not. And that's one thing that really surprised the parents that I told them is the DEA has tested their pills that they confiscate, the fake counterfeit pills, and 26% of them are fatal. They have a lethal dose of fentanyl. That's 1 in 4. Your child has a chance of dying. And that's what happened to Matthew. He was that 1 in 4, and he passed away from fentanyl poisoning.
Yes, it's truly tragic and shocking. And I hope people are scared straight, because these are facts. These are facts that everyone in our coalition are presenting, and I hope they are scared straight. We can't hide from this. It can't be the elephant in the room anymore. We must bring this out. We must deal with factual information. We must get this word out. And parents are trying across this nation, just like other people that I've interviewed on this podcast. And it's growing. I have hope. It's growing every day. I see that. And we have a lot further to go with the public service announcements. I just want to say thank you. And I want you to know that, and I want our audience to know that each year, tens of thousands of our young people, middle school, high school, 20s and 30-year-olds are dying. The illicit fentanyl is in every community, schools, colleges, universities across this country, and in every profession. Death is never easy to talk about, especially your child. Wendy, I admire your strength, your strong faith, and fortitude. Thank you for sharing Matthew's and your story, to bring awareness and to make a difference. Matthew is remembered as a kind, funny, loving young man, as you described. He is forever in your heart and on your mind each and every moment of your day. When a child leaves this earth, they never really leave you. I know as his mother, you will always keep talking about him. You will always, in his honor, choose to fight for his legacy by educating teens and young adults about the dangers of fentanyl and recreational drug usage, in hopes of saving young adults and their families from having to experience the heartbreak that your family has had to endure. I know you love and miss your sweet brown-eyed boy every day. Matthew's life mattered. The recreational drugs did not define him. Thank you, Wendy. God bless you.
Thank you for having me.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to this weekly podcast. Visit our website, which is linked below in the description. On the website, click on the social media icons and feel free to share this podcast with others. And also, please leave your reviews and ask questions that you would like for me to ask our guest for our next episode, dealing with the fatal facts of fentanyl. Enjoy your week. Many blessings.